Miss Rachel Brosnahan and Mr. Tony Shalhoub. And thank you both so much for coming out to preview this third season. Really exciting. And I mean, here we are, season 3. At this point, you both have spent so much time with these characters, as has the audience. Do you feel as though you know these people deeper or better than you did, say, 3 years ago?
Yes and no. You know, like, I feel like just when we think, or at least I feel this way, I don't know about you, but I feel like just when I think I have a handle on Midge and who she is, Amy likes to throw us curveballs. I'm always wrong.
Right. Amy Sherman-Palladino, the series creator, Emmy winner herself. Yeah.
Yes, I feel the same way. You settle into something, and just when that little first shade of complacency starts to set in, then we're all of a sudden we are in a position where our characters are forced to kind of reinvent themselves and get onto a whole different track at a totally different speed, and it's great. It's great for us because the kind of risk when you're doing a series, if it runs for a while, is always that you kind of get painted into a corner and you get to play maybe 1 or 2 colors at best. And this is just not the case here. The range just keeps expanding.
Right. Well, you begin to answer my next question, which is, I mean, at this point, you are on a bona fide, long-running series. Congratulations.
Thanks.
It's a good thing. It's a very good thing. But yeah, as you said, I mean, this isn't your first time in that position, certainly, and you do run the risk of maybe falling into some complacency. So I am wondering, are there things that you still want to do with these characters, still want to explore that you haven't yet?
Definitely. The nice thing about where the show started for all of the characters is there was this big blow up. Midge started her life over in a lot of ways, and so every new thing she does and tries, she's doing and trying for the first time. I feel like within the character, we're in a constant state of discovery, and that's really exciting and helps us avoid that, certainly.
Right, and everything that Midge goes through, every step and advancement that she makes, every risk that she takes, impacts most of the rest of us in a really profound way, and not just each of us, but our relationships with each other become, kind of twisted and turned on their side, and so we are navigating our way through our own journeys and the journeys of our relationships.
Right. Well, every character is so informed by every other character in this show, especially. It is such a wonderful ensemble of actors, and everyone really does have their episodes and their moments. Which is, SAG award-winning ensemble as well. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about working with Amy and Dan, the formidable creators and executive producers of this show. So much has been said about, the timber of working on one of their series, namely that it is in many ways working on a play. Do you feel that way inside of it? You have both done a fair amount of stage acting, the two of you. I mean, does it feel that way on the inside?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the scene you saw early on in this episode, there's a big, long shot that's about 6 minutes long that starts with Susie and Midge coming into the USO. We rehearsed that for one afternoon and then put it up on its feet. We often say, we joke, but we're very serious, that it feels like we're doing a play a day without rehearsal. We shoot these, almost every scene is shot like it's a oneer, and then if we're lucky, we pop in for some coverage so that we can break up the oneers if necessary. But I feel like whenever they can, they like to shoot everything as one. The camera choreography on this show is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's a crime that Jim McConkey can't win every award. He's our Steadicam operator. What Jim McConkey, I'm never going to shut up about this because it's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in my life, but what Jim McConkey pulled off to make that shot happen when we come in on the car and then get out of the car and go up on the stage, the camera never cuts, and Jim McConkey drove alongside us with the camera crew in a car, and we basically went like this. We drove, and they were driving, and then we turned around, and then they turned around, and we drove side by side, and he got out of the car and was led backwards up a ramp, across the stage, backwards down the other side of a ramp, off the stage, holding a 100-pound camera. Jim McConkey's lost like 40 pounds since we started working on this show. It's really cool. I've never worked on something that shoots this way, and so many of us come from theater. It's like all of the things that we love combined into one thing, and we feel so, so lucky all the time.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, and really all of the design elements and just every element of production to make this show happen, because it is just, I mean, you're recreating a different era on the streets of New York City. That is a lot. That's not easy. And that's, I mean, I imagine that all comes top down from Amy and Dan.
Amy and Dan do also instill a certain level of trust and confidence. We just feel like we're being. It's sort of an interesting combination of being well taken care of and challenged to what beyond what you really think you can handle. I mean, I speak for Rachel does, most of the heavy lifting really, but all of us to some degree are we're encouraged and pushed to the limit. I mean, you see these long takes. The dialogue is rapid fire. The cues have to, the comedic timing has to be just like a Swiss watch, and everything has to work. Then you have our Steadicam guy working with us, crew people moving furniture out of the way during a take so that the Steadicam operator can miraculously go right through a table or something. And and then we have our background people, and it's all coming from the top down.
They have made this show an ensemble beyond just the actors. And it's such a unique experience to have in film and television, and something that I've always felt in theater, where, theater is created by every single person. It's created, and that's true for film and television as well, but you don't often feel it in the room. We know every single person on our crew because we interact with them every day, and everybody's talents and unique contributions to the show are celebrated every single day, and you get to see it on screen, which you don't always. It's really special.
Well, speaking to that family, I do want to ask explicitly about the scenes that you two share with one another. They are many, and they are frequently some of the series' best. So, Rachel, before he was your TV papa, what was your relationship to the body of work of Mr. Shalhoub?
Oh, man.
Most of which happened before she was born, but that's...
Some of which happened before I was born. I could nerd out about Tony Shalhoub all day long.
Me too.
Yeah, let's nerd.
Okay.
But Tony was, I think, the first person cast on the show. I think it was you and I, and that was enough to make me want to do this show for the rest of my life. And Tony has been such a deep support and like a lifter of my heart. He is the best TV papa and real life mentor. Tony. I really think that Tony is at the center of this ensemble. You've been doing this for so long, and we look
not that long.
Not that long.
Okay, you're right.
And profoundly, and so well. But we certainly follow your example, and we feel really, really lucky.
Well, thank you. It's interesting you say that, because I feel too that I'm in working with Rachel and being in Rachel's presence and having Rachel be sort of, our leader, really. And she's always in the vanguard. I feel like I've learned so much, and it's sort of bittersweet in a way because the work itself is joyous. She set such a great example. She's such a strong, bright light. The bittersweet, the bitter part is that I look back to when I was her age, and I was just barely able to figure out which shoe went on which foot. I mean, really.
Believe that for 1 second.
Really, I mean it. It. I only wish that I had the kind of the sort of clarity and strength and confidence, and at that stage of my life. But it's so refreshing to come in and to feel this youthful, bright energy in what's so kind of astounding to us all, those of us in our autumn years, is that she understands this period and somehow fits so perfectly into this decade. It's just unbelievable to us.
So, I mean, as you have watched Rachel sort of navigate immense popularity and success, are you reminded or do you see parallels to those earlier phases of your career?
Well, I mean, no. No, because I was not, I was not as adept and as, and as sort of, I was just, I think my earlier years were just fraught with terror and a kind of insecurity that I wore on not only on my sleeve but on my forehead, tattooed to my forehead, and so no, I mean, as I say, I wish that I had had that level of, that I could be and, could have been an advocate for myself to the degree that Rachel is, and still carrying all this, kind of talent and risk-taking stuff that she does every day. So it's not, I want to, basically what I'm saying is I want to come back as Rachel.
I would like to come back as Tony Shalhoub, please. Yeah. But I have to say something really quickly because, first of all, the terror is so real. Every single minute
you hide it
of
well.
every single day. But also, you are only as good an advocate for yourself as the people around you let you know you can be. And that's something that I've been so fortunate to have had from a very young age. Is I've been surrounded by people on the projects that I've been a part of who have taught me how to do that, and you're one of those people.
Oh, thanks.
But it's something so important to remember, I think, as a young person in any industry, but also as an older person in any industry, that you can be that person for people. I spent a lot of years being the youngest person on every set I was on, and I couldn't be more grateful for having that experience because I got to learn from so many other people how to do this and how to set an example and how to say yes to the things you should say yes to and how to say no to the things you should say no to. And that's something that I'm constantly learning, but have felt empowered by the people I've been surrounded with.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, does that, you both just mentioned sort of this fear, this omnipresent fear, does having that person in your corner, whoever it may be, does that help to circumvent that ongoing terror?
Well, sure. I mean, there's strength in numbers, and especially when, in this case, in this ensemble, everybody is really, on the same page, has a very similar level of appreciation for the position we're in, for the creative team and the designers behind us, for the writers certainly, and for Amazon being in our corner and giving us that level of support. So yeah, it's and what that does as for the group is it makes the bond tighter, don't you think? And it really, it just sort of becomes like this constantly growing, strengthening body, and when we all want to stay together and stay with it and be supportive of each other.
And do you feel more cohesive as an ensemble in this third season than maybe when you were first coming together?
Yeah, certainly.
Sure.
We've also, as all of Midge's different and previously very separate worlds have intersected with each other, we've all gotten to work together a lot more, which has been really fun. We got to shoot so many more ensemble scenes in various iterations together this season, more than we ever had before.
Right, and I mean, just in this episode that you just saw,
Right.
for me to have done a scene or two with Luke, with Lenny Bruce, I mean, that I've been just so dying to get. I couldn't figure out how is Abe ever going to intersect with Lenny Bruce? He's kind of like twice removed, and sure enough, we opened this first script, and they just have this way of crafting the material and bringing all these sort of disparate worlds together.
You and Alex joked forever that you guys didn't have a scene together until
Alex, you mean?
Yeah, Alex.
Oh yeah,
What
well
did I
that
say?
was just late in. You did, and I'm deaf. Late in season 2, wasn't it? I mean,
season
season
Breakfast,
2.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
It was
So
the
it's
first time you guys had ever worked together. Is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Crazy.
So it's been really interesting to see how they can sort of keep the tapestry, kind of growing and getting larger, and it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And I mean, certainly the show has changed your lives in more ways than one. I think that's fair to say. Has it, right? Has it changed or made you different or better in your acting?
Oh man, more than I ever thought possible. Talk about terror. Like this show has been the most terrifying thing every single second of every single day, which is so satisfying as an actor. How often do we get to do that? I mean, I remember watching the first season and with one of my best friends and turning to her and going, that's it for me. Like I'm done. Like this is, who let me do this and what the fuck were they thinking? And I don't think it ever goes away, and maybe if it does, you're not being challenged anymore.
It doesn't.
Every time I talk to Amy, she's coming up with some even more elaborate, insane scheme. I can't tell her things that I'm afraid of anymore because she puts them in the movie. Like, I told her I was scared of dancing, and I had like 3 choreographed dances. There were choreographed things this season. She sent me a text message before we shot this episode, and she goes, "Oh, by the way, there's 850 background in the scene. Hope that's cool with you." And I was like, what? She was like, well, we could thin it out to like 250 if that would make you more comfortable. I was like, yeah. So it's horrifying, but it's stretched, and we talk about this a lot. I mean, Michael and I have talked about this a lot. It's stretched us in ways that we couldn't have imagined. I mean, I spent my whole life being told I wasn't funny, and not being offended by that, just sort of accepting it as the truth. We have strengths and we have weaknesses, and comedy was not a strength of mine. So this whole thing is insane. And I still don't really know what to make of that. But it's been, I feel like every day that I'm learning new things and being pushed in new ways, and getting frustrated and terrified and thrilled by it all at the same time.
Well, you have to do all of that. You have to do stand-up routines in front of many, many people. I mean, even though they're written stand-up, I mean, you still have to do it. You have to deliver, and you have to be doing these enormous, pages and pages of dialogue and of monologue, and it's got to be daunting. It's right. I mean, especially if you're in front of, when you just did this, it was in front of 1,000 people.
850 people. But it was one of the coolest things I never could have expected was walking out onto the stage in the USO. I'm trying to get Amy to send me. We always do a bunch of shots at the stage, facing the stage, to get all the coverage for the stand-up routines. And then we always shoot one either usually over me, onto the audience. And I'm trying to get her to send me just a 5-second clip of that, because I can't, I want to bottle that and hold on to it for when I'm sad. You know, it was just something. And Leroy and I had the same experience. Leroy, who plays Shy Baldwin, who's in a lot more, he's so amazing, and he's in a ton more of this season. We just were looking out at that audience going, what is this life? What are we doing here? Who let us on the stage?
Amy and Dan.
Yes, they did.
And Tony, what about you? Do you feel as though working on this show has informed you as an actor in some way?
Oh, yes, many ways. Again, I just, as I mentioned, the challenge of doing this dialogue at this breakneck pace, as one gets a little older, you know, the brain isn't quite as sharp. And also, it's not just the brain, but it's the kind of like the connection between the brain and the actual tongue and lips. And so this is actually kind of keeping me, I'm finding it's keeping me a little, you know, sort of tuned up. I think it's kind of like going to keep Alzheimer's at bay. Just a few more weeks, you know, I'm buying. But it's super challenging, and it's exhilarating. It's energizing when we do all get to do one of those super quick takes, long takes, and nothing clunks or falls on the floor. It's just a feeling like no other. When we really. So I feel like it's keeping me sharp, and like Rachel said too, it's kind of like doing a play. It has that sort of it has that experience that you think only theater can give you. Yeah. So it's keeping us all connected to that.
Right. It really is an ephemeral sort of experience that you feel as though is not frequently captured on camera and only in theater, but somehow Amy and Dan, they do it.
Yeah, and on that same point, you know, there's part of our ensemble, Kevin Pollak, you know, who plays Moish, is a fantastic stand-up and a terrific actor, but he told me recently that he's never done a play.
What?
Oh yeah, did you know this?
No.
Oh, yes, because I was doing a play. Yeah, I was doing a play last year. He came to see it, and he said, "God, I just don't know how you do that." I said, "Well, what are you talking about? You do." He said, "No, I do stand up. I don't have to talk or react to anybody else except the audience. It's just me. I get to drive it, and I get to." And so my goal is to, you know, with the help of Amy and Dan and this material, to get him on a stage in a play where he actually has to, sustain something for 2.5 hours and talk and listen to other people. I mean, I think he keeps telling me he will not do it, but because he's doing this and it's very close to a play, I'm convinced that I'm going to be able to break him down.
You're putting it out into the universe.
This
putting it out.
is being filmed. This is being filmed. You are now on record with this.
All right.
Okay.
He and I will do the Sunshine Boys or something.
Oh my God.
Okay, well, I think it's almost time to wrap on that note. And before we do, I guess I want to end by asking you both, I mean, you portray these characters, you certainly know them better than anyone, to just ask a real lofty question as the experts. What is the one thing that each of your respective characters wants more than anything in this world?
Success. Not always, but now.
I think Abe is looking for. I think what Abe wants is meaning, and because his life up to this point, it has been. It's kind of been an agenda that's been dictated maybe from the outside, or doing what he thought he was supposed to do, the way he was supposed to do it. And so, and now I think he's kind of drilling a little deeper into his own soul, and he's trying to figure out what his true center is, and the meaning that will come from that.
Well, I think we're going to get a good taste of that in season 3, judging by that premiere.
Yeah.
And I want to let you guys go. Thank you so much, both of you.